experienced some police violence. I'm coming to you via Skype from an iPad because the Malaysian police have just busted our camera. Basically, about 2.5 hours after the main clash at Merdeka Square, Independence Square, where the protesters had been trying to get through police barricades, they did so, and they were forced back with water cannon and tear gas. The police had pretty much stood down from that point. And then 2.5 hours later, a small group of Bersih protesters who are protesting for electoral reform, they charged back towards the square, and black-shirted police ran into them. And a number of instances we saw policemen, a group of them grabbing protesters, holding them, while another one would punch or knee or slap the protester. We went in to try and film that ourselves, and found ourselves subject to not quite such harsh treatment, but not dissimilar. We were shoved and held, and our camera pushed to the ground. It seemed they were under instructions, perhaps, to prevent the media from filming that kind of thing. We don't know exactly how many times this happened, but certainly after the initial clash, which the protesters seem to be to blame for, really, because they, contrary to the plans to sit behind the barricades and not try and get through to Independence Square, they did so. But then in these subsequent scuffles, the police were extremely heavy-handed, not just with protesters, but also to a limited extent with us.
What is it that the protesters want? You mentioned electoral reform. Are their demands considered fair?
Well, the government says that a lot of their demands are already being addressed. There was a similar protest last year, Bersih 2.0. This was Bersih 3.0. Last year, they tried to go to Merdeka Stadium, the Independence Stadium, and were prevented from doing so in similar fashion. But since then, the Prime Minister Najib Razak made a high-profile speech in September outlining a number of liberalising reforms. He set up a parliamentary select committee which would look at the whole issue of electoral reform, and that reported a couple of weeks ago. The lower house of parliament approved it. The protesters, though, say that the reforms that have been put in place or are likely to be put in place won't be ready in time for elections which are widely expected to take place in June. And they also say that the Electoral Commission, which has been charged with carrying out these reforms, that it is a politically biased organisation and they want to see it disbanded and reformed along more independent lines. So that's what the essence of this protest was about. What it turned into was something pretty ugly.